So I feel like I need to give a disclaimer before I share this conversation about limited volunteers and how we do digital ministry to limited volunteers, because when I get excited and I talk about things and I'm not following like a strict script, I can just like... So, Michelle, you need to work on behalf of everyone here that if you need to jump in, you need to cut me off, you need to ask a question, you need whatever, full permission granted. Okay?
Do I raise my hand? Do I just yell?
No.
Do I
just come at me. Yeah.
Come at you. Come at you. All right.
Because I have a lot to say about this. I'm very excited about it. I feel like there is a lot that can be said. My brain went first to digital ministry is ministry. Okay. So digital ministry with limited volunteers is like any kind of ministry with limited volunteers, which a lot of progressive leaders of spiritual communities have faced or are facing right now. And so I was, pondering and researching and thinking about what does effective ministry with limited volunteers look like? And then, how does that connect in person, but how does it connect digitally as well? So the first one that I want to talk about is providing purpose. And we've talked about this with most topics because I think at Digi, we find this one of the most important things, that you as a community need to have purpose for what you are doing. And I believe that connects to all of the volunteer opportunities that are out there for people, because people need to know why they're doing what they're doing. The big things that I went to here were in person, take out the trash, and digitally make slides. So those are kind of like my examples I'm going to keep coming back to. So you might just be like, I need someone who takes out the trash every week. Or I need someone to make slides because we have worship and it's coming up. But that needs to be connected to the deeper purpose of why there's trash in the first place, why there are slides in the first place. Like people need that drama. Okay, that's what I came back to when I wrote this down in the blog form, which people can link to below if they don't want to hear me ramble. We always start our Digi meetings with drama, Michelle, and that's a concept that we got from the book Death by Meeting by Patrick Lencioni, which I can link above and below. Great book. But it always brings us back to start with the purpose in mind. Why are we meeting? What's our mission? How is this meeting or this volunteer task connected to the mission at hand? I think starting and ending with a purpose is really important.
We know why there is trash, but why do we need to take out the trash is important to know too.
Yeah. How does this play into the greater picture of things?
Right.
Second, that was number one. Number two, maintain a healthy environment for your volunteers. I think this is huge, and I think there are a lot of ways that this can come into play. People if they're volunteering, they're giving up time, the most precious asset they have. So how do we make this the most, the healthiest? That's really the best word I can come up with. Healthiest environment for them to do that in. For example, are they signing on for the rest of their life forever for you to just point them around wherever you want? Likely not. So how do we foster an environment that isn't necessarily a lifelong commitment? How do we foster an environment where people have maybe some level of expectation and yet can also take a break whenever they want, or participate as little or as much as they want, or try something out without that pressure of we need a new trash person because Bert, the man who took the trash out every week for the past 50 years, is now not able to do that. So who wants to sign up for the next 50 years? Because we need a new Bert. Breaking some of those molds and allowing people to just try, and it being okay if it doesn't work out, or if it works out for a couple of weeks or months. I think another way to make it really healthy for people is to invest in them, to encourage them, to thank them, make it known that you appreciate what they're doing. Someone's making slides week after week, or even they just make it a couple times. Can they use any equipment? Can they use any software? Do they need someone to help train them to do this better or make it more efficient or easier for them? That's just an example off the top of my head, but for all these different volunteer roles, there's usually ways to pour into those volunteers to show them that they're their time is appreciated, their skills are appreciated.
Yeah, appreciation is key. And like you said about maintaining a healthy environment for that. And that key too is to let people know that it's not a commitment for life, that they can get out of it or they can start and stop. I think that's sometimes what inhibits people from volunteering, because they think they're going to be stuck with it forever. And just to have a rotation in there,
it's important to identify the need. And I think that's a health thing, honestly, to say like, we need this, and to not guilt people into things or like drop hints and like make jokes and try to like nudge, we'd really like for lay it out there.
Just be direct.
And that, I think that's healthy communication. So that's a health thing, but it's also, number 3 is be clear about the need, what's required within the need. So like, I think being clear can then just like balloon out into, what do you need? Can you be more specific? Because I think people get intimidated, and you might have volunteers that are willing to help. They want to help. They love your community. They want to be a part of it somehow. Potential volunteers, I suppose. But when you say, hey, we need someone to take out the trash, are you interested in being on that rotation or doing that, trying that? They might come up with all these questions in their head all of a sudden, like, okay, like, how long am I doing this for? Is there a specific time? Like, does this have to be done on Friday at 5 o'clock every single week? Or is there flexibility in that? Where do I take the trash? Like, am I going to be able to carry the trash? Is there recycling that I have to worry about? What if something gets messy? Do I clean that up? Does someone else? Like, there's just a lot of, and that's just trash. I mean, we're just talking a trash can right now. So let alone kids ministry or making slides or making Instagram posts or trying to make TikToks for like church account. What does this look like? And you might not have all the answers, but trying to provide as much direction and as much clarity as possible, I think, can relieve some of that stress, so that when people hear this big question, they're not just like, their mind's just not rolling with making it bigger than it really is.
Right. Great point. Yeah, I like that.
I think you can actually build in some time limits too, with how long someone does something. So can we make it clear? Like, we're not just saying, oh yeah, I know Bird did it for 50 years, but you don't have to do it for 50 years. Can we say, no, I want you to do this for 3 months. I would love for you to do this for 3 months. Are you willing to do this for 3 months? And not even like imply that there might be more after that. If they would like more to be done after that, and they're like, no, I can keep taking the trash out, that's fine. But otherwise, just saying, hey, 3 months, can you make the slides? Or 3 weeks, can you make the slides? And then we'll, go from there. And if they do want to keep going, I would say pick another finite set of time and say, great, I'm so glad you want to keep making the slides. Let's check in another month. Are you ready for number 4?
I'm ready for number 4. I can't wait.
Cool. Great. Wonderful. So number 4 is sharing behind the scenes. So we're already being really clear. We talked about being clear with what the volunteer role is. I think you can kind of push that clarity even further by showing the volunteer role at work from time to time. Now, any kind of community out there that we're talking to is going to have dozens, hundreds maybe, volunteer roles that need to be done on a regular basis. So like, you can't show like 10 a day and just cycle them through. That's too much. But figure out what works for you to show people, this is what it looks like for someone to sit down and make the slides. This is Emma. And maybe Emma makes a little video for your Instagram account, or if you're not on Instagram, maybe it's for your Facebook or your YouTube channel. And Emma's like, hey, everybody, like, I'm making the slides today, and here's what we do. And we take a little screen recording, or just like explaining what's going on and showing the different steps. Like, you don't have to make a how-to video, but you can provide some insight and like maybe decrease the stress level, because you see, oh, yeah, the trash can doesn't have to go very far. Or, oh, it's not as big or heavy as I thought it would be. There, we don't have to worry too much about recycling. Just put it in a different can. Like, just kind of demystifies it a little bit,
Sure.
and also gives you some good content because you're sharing behind the scenes happenings of your community, of which most people won't get to see very often, and just make them feel like they're connected to you a little bit more. What do you think of that
Maybe there's even wheels on the trash can.
one?
Make
If
it
we're
easier. If we're lucky. Very
Good-
cool.
Good
I mean,
stuff.
demystifying is a big thing because people are afraid of the unknown sometimes, and that's why
Mhm.
they don't want to volunteer because they don't know what they're getting into. But the more you can explain that and show that's awesome.
Two more. Do you have that in you?
2 more. Let's do it.
Okay. First, rethinking the need for volunteers for this role. Now, this was kind of like, ooh, but I think this could go either way. This could go the direction of this thing doesn't need to be done. If we can't find someone to volunteer to do it, then clearly it's not important enough to the community for it to continue. So sometimes I think we have to make those tough choices of if the people don't want it, are we actually doing this thing because we want it? Or are we doing it because we feel we have to because we've done it so many times before, which a lot of ministries can fall into. Because if the people don't want it, maybe the people don't want it. Not enough to make it happen. But then the other factor is, do we want this? And maybe we don't have the skills or the time or the energy or whatever to make it happen. So we need to hire someone. So maybe this isn't a volunteer role because it shouldn't happen. Or maybe this isn't a volunteer role because it needs to be paid. And that's different than a volunteer.
Yeah.
So I think there's a couple ways to do that. We've talked about before, maybe you don't have the funds to make a full staff position for this thing, but you can contract someone out for this specific task or a couple specific tasks, or work with colleges for an internship related work study opportunity. Seniors often need to do projects. Maybe that's something that you can tap into. Reading my notes.
That's a great idea. Interns, high school, college.
Or just a professional, If you need it done and no one's volunteering, maybe
you have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's so many options now with what they call the gig economy and Upwork and Upwork, Fiverr, to have just a virtual assistant or copywriting or social media management. So many options.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be long term, and it can be very inexpensive.
Yeah.
And you can free up your volunteers for something that gives them a little bit more buy-in, or they have a little bit more passion about.
Exactly. And I think that kind of ties into the number 6, which is to set goals. So what are your goals as a ministry? What are your goals as a community? You have a mission, so do you have any tangible goals that you're trying to reach? And I think that might give some insight into where you need to be pouring into with either volunteers or new staff positions or whatever. But then also giving those volunteers goals too could be good. Now, maybe not every role gets a goal because it just doesn't work like that unless you want to say, Emma, your goal is to, get these done by this time. Like, that's not really a goal, but are there growth goals possible? And some volunteer positions will probably have that more readily available, or it would connect better with other volunteer positions than taking the trash out. But if New Bert's goal is just to keep the trash cans empty for 3 weeks, that's a goal.
Yeah. Remember, celebrate it, appreciate it.
That rhymes. I like that. Yeah. Celebrate whatever progress happens. Celebrate people willing to give their time. An important note I want to make kind of at the end here is to just remember that you can't control everything. You can't make people appear out of thin air. You can't force people to do something. You can't force people to want to do something. But you can adjust and adapt to the situation at hand. You can train new people. You can ask the questions. You can be clear. You can celebrate them. You can invest in them. But you can't control everything. And you might have to make some hard calls because of it. But do the best thing that you know that to do at that moment. Consult with other people in your community. See their thoughts, other leaders. Talk to your people in general about what they want to do going forward. If there's a big issue with making something happen, present the options and move forward faithfully, and knowing that you did what you could and took the proper steps to move forward. I don't know. What do you think about that, Michelle? Any thoughts?
That's cool. Like, just have some grace for yourself and your process, and be gentle, and realize that you cannot control everything, and things will fail, and that's okay, because we learn from failure and we grow from it.
I love that. But can I add one more thing?
Sure.
One more bonus. I knew I had a bonus in me. Processes and systems. I think that's a big thing. Yeah. Speaking your technological language, I just think this is going to make having a process, having systems in place makes tasks so much easier for you to say, Emma, can you do this? Or Bert, can you do this? Like, they know written down what needs to be done, and they can step into it with their questions answered. Now, maybe they'll bring their own flair to it, their own creative juices and energy. That's great. But what systems can you have in place to like minimize that whole like learning curve and like people trying to figure out their boundaries? Like, what is my role? What's someone else's role? Can you figure that out ahead of time so that when someone is working with your kids ministry, they know exactly what kids ministry is and what's expected of them? I think expectations is huge. That's a bonus. It fits in there somewhere.
And in the business world, we call that an SOP, a standard operating procedure.
Love it. Acronyms. Keep them coming.
Yep.
How to do digital ministry with limited volunteers. Which one was your favorite? Comment below if it was insightful or eye-opening for you, something that you'll use, or what did we miss? Let us know that in the comments too. That's it for today. We brought the knowledge. Your turn. Put it into action. And peace. What do you do?
Peace.